We are super grateful to have had the opportunity to speak with Joy Hawkins from Sterling Sky, who, as Conrad calls, the godmother of local SEO. Here's Joy talking lawyers buying fake reviews, the trends, and some of the risks and rewards of doing so.
I definitely am seeing more of it with lawyers than I used to. I feel like in the past, I used to see that lawyers kind of shied away from doing anything too blatantly obvious because they were scared, right? Scared of what might happen to them, to their, license and all that stuff. I'm starting to see some lawyers get pretty like obvious with it. Clients of ours are legitimately wondering, like, it's really hard to compete against
Okay.
because of the benefits that they get. Like the pros currently outweigh the cons.
So, Guy, this is a huge problem. We're seeing this all the time, and we field questions all the time about, what can you do, right? Your take on the what you can do part.
What you can do. So, you can call up a lawyer, competing lawyer in your area and say, I mean, again, I'm assuming you're a lawyer that's going to do something about this because I don't know who else is going to do anything. It's a self-regulating profession, right? So you call up your friend and say, hey, knock it off. You can get formal about it and create
How's
a
that going to go?
Not well. Send a cease and desist letter, especially if your competitor and tell you to go jump in a lake. You can report it to the state bar. Same thing though. Google or the state bar, like Google, they just don't have the resources to combat what's going on. I suspect we're going to see someone get made an example of at some point, like badly, but it hasn't happened yet. You can go to the FTC, probably the same problem. The FTC, and we'll put this in the show notes too. The FTC just released some guidelines and guidance for businesses about fake reviews, and they at least in theory want to take a position on it. But my hunch is, again, they're not resourced to actually combat this. And Google puts out stats about this, and these are their PR stats, so take them with a grain of salt. But they're knocking out a lot of fake reviews. But honestly, it's like a handful of grains of sand on a beach. Like, I don't think the people really realize the magnitude of this issue, and so I don't know. The other one that we talk about is you can publish about it. You can out the competitors and be like, look, we know these firms are buying fake reviews. Joy's point, they're so obvious, and the lawyers aren't scared because they're not getting there's no grievances, no reprimands coming from the state bars. Sure, there probably some of them are taking a reputational hit in their communities because people are like, you're cheating. But you know what? They're like, this is big business. I'm ranking in the local pack because I got 5,000 reviews. The cash register at my firm is ringing. But clearly this is an ethical, pretty straightforward ethical violation. It's a pretty straightforward violation of the FTC rules, and it's gross. Stop it.
And those FTC rules, just to be super clear on this, you cannot absolve yourself of responsibility by outsourcing the fake review generation to a scumbag agency.
You can't do that.
But they've been very specific in their updates. Like, you are now responsible, and they've been very clear about that, updated terms, that the business is responsible for the actions of their agency. All right, so back to Joy. One of the questions that we posted to Joy is, all right, it's such a problem. Should we even play in the game?
I think to compete, you can, but you have to get aggressive and creative with your review tactics. Like, I consulted with a really ethical firm for a long time, and this came up over and over the years. And initially they were, doing things like by the book, whatever. And I think over the years, they've realized that like the volume that their competitors are getting, they can't keep up with. So they kind of changed their tactics around to start asking everybody that called into the firm for a review, despite if they signed them, despite anything.
Right.
Like, they started getting kind of creative with it, which I think is smart. As far as I know, that it's not any issue. It's not an issue from Google's guidelines for sure.
Right.
And I think it's sad. I think it's sad that you have to do that. I definitely don't think lawyers should go buy reviews. I hope a day is coming, but I also feel like outside of my own morality and ethics, I have a hard time defending why they shouldn't.
Brutal honesty coming to you from Joy. if you are a law firm, the reality, Guy, I think the part of that's just the hard part for a smaller firm. We talked about solos at the beginning of this. There is a volume component to this. There is a recency component to this. And if you can't generate a volume of reviews, and it's harder as a solo to generate a ton of reviews than it is as a 40 lawyer firm, it's difficult to compete, and volume is a game. I think you need to look at your market and decide whether or not this is a channel that you can play in. And in many cases,
I mean, here's my thing about it. Yeah, and we talked about this with Carolyn as well. But when you pose it as like, should you do it? It's like, of course you should, because guess what? We're thinking about this very myopically, like SEO people. Guess what else? When people search your name,
that's fair.
Your profile comes up. So you better be sending people there, regardless of the number or the volume or any of that stuff. You better be sending people to your Google business profile and plant those seeds now. If you're a small firm, like to Conrad's point, maybe this isn't your top priority. I wouldn't spend all the money in the world and your entire marketing budget and all your resources on trying to get your Google business profile to rank when you don't have competitive number of reviews. But the tactical thing here too is because a lot of folks are like, how do I even level set this? Go do a search for your target queries and see how you stack up. See who's ranking there. If you had a Morgan & Morgan shop in town and they've got 5,000 reviews at that local office,
how would they do that, Guy?
I don't know, but just providing great service. But if you've got 0 or 5, well, guess what? That's a long-term play for you because it's going to take a long time for you to close that gap. And we talk about this with Darren Shaw, and hopefully we might get some clips from that interview at some point too. And we've talked about with Darren in his summit. But ranking is not enough. You actually have to have reviews in order to convert. Like, why is anybody going to call you? You can rank all day in the first position. You have no reviews, and number 2's got 10,000. Who do you think they're calling? Not you.
I think it's a salient point that we should not be myopic on the value of reviews. Yeah, they'll help you rank for local, which will generate incremental business, but they will also, really importantly, help you convert those that are referred to you, right? And without them, people are very much walking blind. I think that is a very, very salient point, and one that as a marketer, it's often overlooked. What do we do, and what happens at Google when fake reviews are reported?
Google, all they do is they take them down, and then there's nothing stopping the business from getting more. So I actually saw this with a major law firm last year. There's a huge law firm. You all know them. They lost all their reviews last year. They got back to their numbers really fast. Like, it did not take long. They rebounded quickly.
Well, that's disheartening. And you and I both know who she's talking about.
I have no idea.
That's a bunch of garbage.
The other thing I think about with this too, and I would love if this is a great opportunity for listener feedback. Unless maybe I'm wrong, but I put out a GBP signal for like, hey, have you ever had your account suspended or your visibility, removed specifically from fake reviews, right? And nobody has said anything. I thought one person on the local search forum said that they did have their visibility impacted. But that seems like the no-brainer thing. When Google identifies a fake review pattern, instead of just taking the reviews down, why don't you knock them out of the results like you do with every other penalty?
Right.
Danny Sullivan. What's up, Danny Sullivan?
Come on, Danny. Take your link approach and apply it to reviews. That's what Guy's saying. Hey, so another question, and I think the answer to this question has evolved, is we want to know if this is coming from agencies or directly from the lawyers. What did Joy have to say?
It's 1,000% the agency, but the lawyer can't pretend they don't know. You don't go from having 30 reviews to 130 in 2 months without noticing. Like, you'll see those requests, they're not clients. You also can tell they're written by SEOs based on how they're written. Like, very, very similar patterns, clear patterns. You look at enough fake reviews, it's really obvious.
So you're blaming
there's no way
agencies.
They don't know. The agencies are the one posting them, but the business is paying the agency, and they know what they're doing. Like, they know that these aren't real reviews. There is no way they can claim they don't know.
Yeah, they know. I mean, let me tell you a couple of examples here. Number one is some of the same review profiles that we know are leaving fake reviews for lawyers. You see them on other law firm profiles, and I get the email from the vendor who's the same profile as the people leaving fake reviews, selling the fake reviews. So, hey, Guy, you want to buy some fake reviews? And it's the same person who's leaving the fake reviews. So the lawyers are getting those emails too. They're buying fake reviews. It is total BS. Again, as a agency owner, I'm extremely biased, but I'm also a licensed lawyer. And I will tell you that we get requests from lawyers saying, how do I get my review numbers up? Like, look what this person's doing. Can we do that? And I'm saying, oh, sure, you can do it. And in my opinion, you should be reprimanded and probably fined by the FTC, and those reviews should be taken down. But the lawyers know, especially these big dogs. You're telling me these big dog firms, they've got 5,000, several thousand reviews. Oh, I just thought we were doing a great job for clients. Come on.
And don't forget that you guys, the legal industry blew its mind when Avvo launched and you could review a lawyer. You lost your mind and now you're in bed with it. So for those of you who want to continue listening to us, go take a hot shower, gargle some bleach, and it's actually worse than it seems because of the way Google handles the reporting of fake reviews. Listen to Joy blow your mind about how bad this is.
Not to be like, again, I feel like I'm really pessimistic here, but like, just so people are aware on why it's such a problem. Something that I feel like a lot of people don't realize is that fake reviews on Google, they do contribute to ranking. So yes, they are helping people rank. When they get removed, that ranking benefit doesn't go away. So they don't actually get deleted on the back end, they get hidden. And I feel like that's important for people to realize because that's even more of a reason why we need to prevent it.
That is bonkers. That seems like a easy
stupid
fix.
I've mentioned it a few times to Google. But yeah.
That's not
Google.
funny.
Fix your shit, man.
This
Fix
isn't
your
funny.
shit.
Money makes a it makes a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a